Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of our very own fee-only certified financial planners. Please note this podcast is intended for educational purposes and should not be considered financial or investment advice, as we do not know all the variables to one's personal situation when answering a question. Before we jump into today's question, a shout out to our extraordinary YFP financial planning team that makes this segment possible. Your Financial Pharmacist offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to pay off your student loans, make the right investment decisions, or simply build a solid financial plan, we'll help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from James in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi guys, this is James from Atlanta, Georgia. I've got a question for you regarding flexible spending accounts, otherwise known as an FSA. As most of the audience is likely aware, you can set aside up to $2,750 of your salary, tax-free, to be used for eligible healthcare expenses. And while you usually divvy up the amount you choose to defer paycheck to paycheck, you actually have access to the fully elected amount at the beginning of each year. So here's my actual question. I'm moving to a new job in the coming weeks, and I've used more of the FSA than I've actually contributed to so far. What happens when I switch employers? And for those on the opposite end, what happens if you use less than you've contributed when switching jobs? Thanks.
Thank you, James, for submitting your question. We featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast. Tim Baker, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was a stumper, actually. I was like, you know what? I don't really know.
It's a good question.
So we had to kind of go, we had to go and research this one. So what we actually found, Tim, was that the FSA, or the flexible spending account, actually has a pretty useful loophole for those that are in James's position that are looking to make a move from an employment perspective. So to back up, the flexible spending account allows you to use pre-tax dollars on approved out-of-pocket healthcare expenses, which could be things like co-pays or even over-the-counter type of things. And what the IRS for 2021 has stated is that they will allow you, the taxpayer, to basically allocate $2,750 into your FSA for 2021. Now, the interesting way that this works is that on January 1, when the clock turns to 2021, the amount that you elect in your open enrollment, so let's assume you did that in November, for a lot of people that's the case, the amount that you select is basically available to you to spend from day one of 365.
Right.
So let's pretend, Tim, that you put that full amount in, $2,750, and let's pretend you get paid twice a month for 12 months. That's 24 paychecks. $2,750 divided by 24 is about $115. So that's what's basically being deducted from your pay. So let's say, Tim, after January, so let's say you get paid your second time, you're like, hey, I'm out. I'm going to go work for someone else. That you've essentially put $230 towards your FSA, but you can go in and actually, before you leave, spend all $2,750. So even though it's deducted over the course of the year, you have access to it from day one. So a lot of people are like, well, is it legal? The answer is yes. You are entitled to that full amount as long as you spend it. So that's the big thing with FSAs, unlike HSAs, it's use or lose. So if you leave and you don't spend that full $2,750, you spend nothing of that $230 that you actually put in, you lose that money. So it is this kind of give and take system. So when your employment ends, you can no longer participate in the company's FSA program, and you forfeit those use of funds. And that might be from the day of termination, or maybe the last day of the month. So at the very least, you should definitely spend what you've contributed, or the full amount. So I think that's where this kind of give and take happens, is that a lot of people, they just forget that the FSA is there, or they just think that, I didn't put that much in it, and they don't spend it. So there's a lot of this forfeited money that just sits there and then just gets absorbed by the plan. So James, to your question, if you're looking to make a move, you should strategically spend that full amount, that $2,750, and benefit from that loophole that is built into the FSA. So just to recap, Tim, full amount is granted to you on January 1, and you basically put into that as you get paid, but you're entitled to that full amount even if you don't. So it's kind of like insurance in a little bit. So like if I buy a 30-year life insurance policy and that policy is enforced on January 1, and then I keel over and die on January 2, even if I've only paid one premium, I still get that $1 million, $2 million payout. So it's kind of similar in that case, is that it doesn't really matter, that you've paid in the full amount, you still have access to that benefit.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, a topic we haven't talked a lot about on the show. We've talked about HSAs and a little bit of FSAs in that conversation, but not more specifically on FSAs here. Obviously, a very, very nuanced, specific question, but a good one. And just a shout out to you, our lead planners, Robert Kelly, our tax professional enrolled agent, Paul Eichenberg, for dissecting this further and not only answering James's question, but I suspect it may come up in other scenarios as well. So James, again, thank you for taking time to submit the question to be featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist podcast. And as a small thank you, we're going to be sending you a super comfy YFP t-shirt into the community. We would like to hear from you and feature your question on an upcoming episode. You can let us know that question by going to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/AskYFP, or you can send us an email at info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com. Have a great rest of your week.